Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Goldberg from the Monday Morning Cooking Club, and I'm really happy to be here today for Mazon Australia to share with you one of my favourite honey cakes of all time for Rosh Hashanah. For those of you who don't know, Mazon is an incredible non-profit organisation striving to alleviate hunger amongst people of all faiths and backgrounds. Truly amazing stuff. And since Shavuot, they have been putting together these boxes of fresh veggies and distributing them to families in need, who are then creating delicious and nourishing soups and dishes from the veggies. So it's really good work. Now, onto the cake. So this recipe comes from our latest book, Now for Something Sweet, and it is a loaf tin size cake, which means it's perfect for people who aren't feeding too many or who want to make some for gifts as friends. It's just not too big, which is great. So you'll need a loaf tin, and I'm using sort of a larger size loaf tin, which I have sprayed with canola oil spray and then lined with baking paper. The oven needs to be preheated to 180 degrees Celsius, and that is a convectional temperature. So let's run through the ingredients in this honey cake. I'm going to divide them up into dry and wet. So in the wet ingredients, we have got 250 grams of honey, 2 eggs, 175 grams of caster sugar or white sugar if that's what you've got, 100 mils of oil, and that's sort of a plain flavored oil, not your best extra virgin for this one, and some vanilla extract or vanilla essence. Dry ingredients, we have 3/4 of a cup each of self-raising and plain flour, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda or bicarbonate of soda, and a mixture of spices. We've got 1/2 teaspoon each of ginger and cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and 1/8 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. There are the ingredients, and there's one more thing that brings it all together, which is 3/4 of a cup of hot, freshly brewed tea. So we can use a mix master like this, or a handheld mixer, or even a bowl and a whisk will do the job for this recipe. But into my mix master bowl, I'm going to put all of the wet ingredients and mix them together. So I'm just going to click it in, and I'm going to start with my oil, sugar, eggs, and honey. Now I like to just measure the honey straight into the bowl, so I don't need to have this issue of it sticking to anything. Sometimes I spray the inside of that with olive oil spray before I measure it so that it slides out, or you can always put your glass into the microwave to help get that stuck honey out. But I'm just going to use my trusty spatula. Okay, so that's the honey, and now we just need to add a little bit of vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon will do, and I'm just going to eyeball it. So, wet ingredients, we have got oil, eggs, sugar, honey, and vanilla. And I'm just going to mix it all together. I just want it to be really smooth and a little bit thickened. Probably take about 1 minute. The smell that's coming out of that bowl is, to me, the smell of Rosh Hashanah. It's honey. And of course, like you always have to do with a stand mixer, is scrape it down halfway through. Because things always creep up the sides. Okay. I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds. In the meantime, I'm going to sift together my dry ingredients. So I've got just one of these, or you can have one of the handheld squeezy sifters, which my mum had, but I'm using this just much quicker and easier. And I'm going to put in both my flours, the mixture of spices, and of course a pinch of salt, which I forgot to mention is also in there, and my bicarb soda. And I'm going to sift them together. So the idea of this is to lighten the flour to make the cake a bit lighter, and also to combine the dry ingredients really well. And I think the second part is actually more important than the first. All right, so if you want to, you can actually do that twice. But we're not going to do that today. So Okay. You can see it's lovely and thick and shiny, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, I'm just going to click that back in. Now I'm going to take the tea bag out. So I have my tea, my dry ingredients, and my wet ingredients. And on a slow speed, I'm going to spoon in, let's say about a quarter of the dry ingredients, and I'm going to pour in a little bit of the tea. And I'm just going to keep alternating to do it 3 or 4 times so that I get all the dry ingredients and all the wet ingredients in the bowl. It's a really, really simple cake, and as I said, it can be done just in a bowl with a handheld whisk and you'll get pretty much the same result. Okay, and the last bit I'm just going to tip in. You can imagine if you put the whole bowl of flour in at once, it would just puff up into your face and that would not be pretty. And the last bit of liquid, and again, I'm just going to turn it up a tiny bit and then scrape it down again. So you can see it needs scraping down. The flour is on the inside, and I'm just going to give that a bit of a stir. I'm just going to give it one more whiz in the machine because there are a few lumps that have come down the side from that flour. And the one thing you don't really want in this cake are lumps of flour. So just give it a quick mix, and that looks pretty good. Okay, my loaf tin. This is a very, very liquid mixture, so you need to take care what sort of tin you use. If you were to use a springform, it would probably leak out the bottom. So if you are using a springform tin for this, make sure you put foil around the outside to secure it. This, because there's no way it can leak, it doesn't matter how liquid it is. And we want the mixture to come probably no more than 3/4 of the way up. Don't be tempted to fill it up the top, because what you'll end up with is honey cake all over the bottom of your oven, and that is not a fun thing to clean up. So this is the mixture, and that's probably a perfect fit for this slightly on the larger size loaf tin. And that's going into the oven just like that at 180 degrees for 25 minutes. Then I'm going to turn it down to 160 and cook it for a further 25, and I'll see you then. Okay, so I took the cake out of the oven about 5 minutes ago, and it's really lovely and golden, and when I press my hand gently on the top, I can feel that it's cooked all the way up to my hand. Loaf cakes do tend to sink a little bit in the middle, especially this honey cake, so don't worry about that. It looks gorgeous and rustic, and when you serve it, you can sprinkle icing sugar or cocoa powder on the top and you won't notice a thing. What I'm going to do now is allow it to cool completely in the tin, and once it's at room temperature, I'm going to either take it out of the tin in the baking paper or wrap it in foil in the tin and keep it wrapped for about at least 2 days until I'm ready to serve it. The cake tends to improve over time and gets this lovely stickiness. This morning I made one in a smaller loaf tin. I just wanted to show you how lovely that is as well. And I had some extra batter, so I made 2 muffin-sized cakes, which will be lovely for someone for afternoon tea. It might just be me. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Remember to go to the Mazon Australia Facebook page and please like them. I mean like them. And also follow what they do, because they're doing really, really great work. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope your honey cakes are a huge success, and I wish you all a Shana Tova and a sweet, sweet new year ahead. Bye for now.